Good morning, it's September 17th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. I want to talk about a problem that I think is a major one in this country today. The political divide has gotten to a dangerous place, and both sides of the political aisle are responsible. When I first went to Washington, D.C. in 1977 to work for Senator Orrin Hatch, our offices were on the 6th floor of the Dirksen office building. Across the hall was the Democratic staff for the Labor and Human Resources Committee. We became good friends and often ate lunch together. Down the hall was the office of Senator Dale Bumpers, a Democrat from Arkansas. In those days, if you needed some cash, you could cash a check at the Senate dispersing office, but a senator had to co-sign the check on the back. Well, I could walk down to Bumpers' office, and his assistant, Polly, would simply sign Bumpers' name on the back of the check. During my 42 years in Washington, I was good friends with both Democrats and Republicans. I carpooled while working in the Senate with Bob Andrews, who worked for Senator John Glenn. Jim Smith and Greg Andrews, who had worked in the Carter administration, became close personal friends. Joe Baca, a Democrat from California, and I played a lot of golf together. Jim Chapman, a Democrat from Texas, was a good friend. The same could be said for John Breaux, Trent Lott, Steve Sims, and a host of other members of Congress. Jim Clyburn, the Democrat from South Carolina, has several pages in his book about something we did together. And I could name many others, but I think you get the point. It's changed. I think the origin of that change started in 2000. Democrats became convinced and enraged that George Bush won the election over Al Gore. Now, you may remember the White House staff removed all the W's from the keyboards before leaving that January. 13 Democrats in the House refused to vote to certify the election results. Hillary Clinton and Terry McAuliffe said the election was stolen from Al Gore. In the end, George W. Bush was declared the winner and became the president. But then we get to 2004. Once again, some Democrats accused the Republican candidate of fraudulent votes to win in Ohio. Stephen Freeman from the University of Pennsylvania did his own form of statistical analysis and said fraud was the only answer. This spread like wildfire among Democrats who were angry to lose another close election. And it's only gotten worse since then. We all remember Stacey Abrams, the firebrand from Georgia, who repeatedly said that Trump stole the election in 2016. And I've always said the two most surprised people on the night of that election were Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Hillary was so upset she could not face her supporters that night and sent down John Podesta, who looked like a deer caught in the headlights. In 2020, Donald Trump refused to admit that he lost. He has never accepted that he was not the winner. I think that in 2016, people voted more against Clinton than for Trump, and in 2020, it was the reverse. They voted against Trump more than for Biden. But Trump rallied his supporters, and a large number of Republicans, wrongly in my opinion, refused to certify that election. And we become a nation of sore losers in elections, and we don't know how to admit that our candidate lost. Today it's become so vitriolic that civility has gone out the window. Republicans are not speaking to Democrats, and Democrats are not speaking to Republicans. Even within the parties there's great division. You have the Progressive Caucus of far-left Democrats, and you have the Freedom Caucus of far-right Republicans. Senators like Joe Manchin are vilified for not acting like lemmings and simply falling in line with what the party wants. Republicans call fellow Republicans rhinos, Republicans in name only, if they stray from the far right. And the divisions are geographical as well. Urban voters tend to vote overwhelmingly for Democratic candidates, and rural and suburban voters vote for Republicans as a rule. I cringe when I hear someone like Joe Biden tell black audiences, quote, "If you don't vote for me, you ain't black," end quote. I guess he assumes that all black people must think as a monolith. Can you imagine a candidate saying something similar to a white audience? They would be vilified as a racist. I put the blame on this rancor on both sides. Trump calls just about everyone a name that is less than complimentary. Hillary Clinton calls many Republicans deplorables. Joe Biden and other Democrats use the term MAGA in the most vile manner. Democrats call Trump Hitler, a fascist, and a threat to democracy. That type of negativity seeps down to the voters, and all too many of them adopt the style of political rancor. The result is we've had 2 attempts to assassinate Trump in the last few months. It would not surprise me if other attempts on other politicians were to happen. Colin Clark, the director of the research at the Soufan Group, held a large summit on political violence. Clark said one of the major takeaways from the conference was that the U.S. was likely to see, quote, "a lot more political violence moving forward, given the general polarization of this country, where everyone is heavily armed and pissed off. Many people are concerned about what happens after November, no matter which candidate wins," end quote. And it's not just on Republican candidates. The anger and political rhetoric has reached a crescendo in this country, and it has to stop. It's been To My Liberal Friends, just my thoughts on the political violence. Thanks for listening.